Hello, my name is Lori Nowaczyk. I am with the Susquehanna Folk Music Society, a nonprofit organization providing 33 years of traditional arts to our community. I'm sitting here with Philip Horn, former executive director of our Pennsylvania Council of the Arts. Philip, thank you for giving me the privilege to interview you this afternoon at this inaugural Susquehanna Folk Festival at beautiful Round Top Resort.
Thank you.
Premier events such as this promote and foster art traditions similar to the work you have so arduously nurtured through your work with the PCA. During our interview, Philip, I would like you to briefly discuss your career as the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts. But before we do, I would like to mention we have a few dignitaries in our audience of whom you may introduce when you feel is appropriate during our interview. Furthermore, I would like to recognize Shana Danielson, candidate for state representative in the 92nd District, and George Scott, candidate for Congress in the 10th District. Would you both please stand? Yeah, I don't know that
he's not here.
George is here today. Thank you for demonstrating your support for the arts by joining us today. Thank you very much. Some of you might not be familiar with the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts, but in a brief description, it is a state agency funded by taxpayers that supports the arts across the state of Pennsylvania. Philip, you were the executive director for 25 years. Briefly, what important things did you accomplish in your tenure as the executive director?
I lasted 25 years. I think I'm the only one who's ever made it through two governors. So wow. And I made it through 5 or 6. A couple of them were temporary. But I think probably the most important thing was we used to fund about 400 organizations a year, and you have a pretty good idea where most of them were located, probably. I don't need to tell you. Last year, we funded close to 1,300 organizations, programs, and projects. And there were years, the year I got there, our arts and education program was in less than half of the counties of Pennsylvania. Yep. Now the program is in every county every year. There's a grant made to for something in every county every year, and we've only missed it. We only missed it once back in when we were slated for elimination. We eventually lost half our grants budget and about a quarter of our staff. At that point, working with the council, it's governed by a citizen council, 15 members appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate, and 4 legislative members. We didn't really establish a policy, but we had an important discussion that we were not going to let the cut make us irrelevant. And at that point, we said we are going to continue to provide an arts and education service in every county every year, and we are going to make a grant in every county every year, or somebody's going to have a lot of explaining to do to me. And we only missed it once, and that partner is still apologizing.
Wow,
so and we decentralized to do that. We have 14 arts and education partners around the state to make it possible for any school or community organization to have access to a professional artist in almost any discipline. Probably, I can't think who else has a larger cohort of trained teaching artists anywhere in the United States than Pennsylvania now. There's about 200 of them all over the state. It used to be they were all concentrated in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, which is great for Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, but it doesn't really, it doesn't do a lot for the folks in Forest or Elk County or any of those places. And, people have to come first.
Right.
Because they're citizens, they live here.
Yep.
They're entitled to have that opportunity, and that has been at least my driving philosophy ever since I got here, that the art is secondary to the public service.
Great. Well, we've been talking about the PCA for a little while. Now let's talk about another important organization, the National Endowment for the Arts. This is a federal-funded entity that supports the arts nationwide. As the executive director of the PCA, what was your relationship with the NEA?
Well, it depends. There's my friend Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Nobody's listening. Mike the mole at the NEA.
Yeah, well, you have a
Mike
colleague
Burke
here,
Kirby,
yes.
Congressional Liaison Office at the NEA, and a huge folk arts fan, big supporter.
Good afternoon, Mike. Glad you're here.
That's right. That's right. And it's taken a while to get there, but you guys have. Well, we were created basically by the National Endowment for the Arts. When they were established in 1966, one of the things they started doing was offering to state governments the opportunity to create a state arts council and have get some money from the feds to support the creation of it. My favorite trivia question about state arts agencies, is if anybody would want to know,
Sure,
is nobody ever guesses it. The oldest state arts council in the country, yeah, it's Utah, 1899.
Wow.
And yeah, and which it sort of figures. You look at Mormon culture and music and how important all that is. The arts, very, very important in that state. And the NEA really, I would say it's quite possible we wouldn't be sitting here today. We wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for the NEA. They have taken the lead in this country in recognizing and promoting and honoring folk and traditional arts and arts from different cultures. They're it. They own this, I think, through Bess Hawes, Bess Lomax Hawes. Her brother was Alan Lomax, the famous folklorist who did all those recordings in the South and all around. Yeah, and the history they have there is amazing. That and arts and education, I think, under Chairman Frank Hotzel, that really, the NEA really took ownership that children should have opportunities to participate in the arts. And I think those are probably, the two things that I get. I sort of roll jazz in with folk arts mentally, even though they're separate programs. But those are areas where this country really can stand up and be very, very proud. Jazz is probably, it is unquestionably to me, the most important contribution America has made to the arts. And it's an original American art form unlike any other. And it's just not, it just doesn't operate the way other art forms operate. But so what? Neither does folk arts.
Yep.
And I should also mention an incredible organization called the National Council for the Traditional Arts, which has been the NEA's partner forever and is the leading folk arts organization in the country. One of the oldest arts organizations in the country, too. It was created in the 1930s.
Wow.
And they produce a number, the National Folk Festival. They're working on the Lowell Festival right now. The Quavy Sisters were just at the one in Maine. And they used to produce tours of incredible folk artists. They did the Masters of the Folk Violin, the Masters of Steel String Guitar, Masters of Mexican Music, which came to Gettysburg a few years ago. I don't know if they've ever recovered from that experience. But yeah, just amazing.
Great. Now let's talk about the National Heritage Fellowship. It's another terrific program which presents funding and a lifetime honor to master folk and traditional artists. Over the years, the Susquehanna Folk Music Society has promoted 8 of these artists by invitation to perform their arts. This weekend, we have the band Trian, which is comprised of 2 of those recipients of the National Heritage Fellowship Award. Bill Mitkomiski, an Irish button accordionist from Baltimore, Maryland, who was the recipient in 2016, and Liz Carroll, who is an Irish-American fiddler, who received her award in 1994. Liz composed a piece for us, particularly for this event, this weekend, called July Fest Jig. So you'll have an opportunity to hear that this weekend at the festival. I suggest that after our interview that you go to the main stage and listen to both of these artists perform. You will truly be delighted by their performances. Philip, you previously told me about the first time you attended the National Heritage Fellowship Awards and witnessed the great Irish step dance performance of Michael Flatley in 1988.
Yeah.
You said it changed your life forever. Philip, would you please tell us a little more about the National Heritage Fellowship Award and its impact?
Sure. There was also another guy on that program named Doc Watson.
Oh, wow.
And a few others. I was working at the California Arts Council back then, running the state's touring program, and I got sort of drawn in. The state had its first folklorist. It's kind of hard to believe that California would be so late to the game, but, you know, whatever. They flew me out for these heritage rides. I really knew very little about this, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was also this German nun from South Dakota who carried on the tradition of handmade bobbin lace making. I don't know if you know what that is, but she could manage as many as 100 bobbins at one time.
Wow.
And while she was standing there talking, demonstrating, at one of the receptions, she's working the bobbins, she's making lace by hand. I was just like, this is unbelievable. And these are the greatest artists in America that nobody ever knows. I mean, you know some of them. Del McCoury, who's from York, and some of the others. But you don't know most of them. The last time I went, it was Flaco Jimenez, who's a great button box accordion player, a Mexican conjunto player, and a guy named Andy Statman, who is from Brooklyn, klezmer musician, who also has written one of the pieces for the Quavy sisters. And we're sitting there. It's just an amazing experience. It's free. It's free, folks. I mean, it's just this amazing concert every year, and it's over. Everybody's applauding, and people are starting to head to the back, and I'm like, wait a minute. Don't go. It isn't over. And, of course, Flaco Jimenez and his band and Andy Statman, they just started. You were there, weren't you, Mike? They just started jamming away because they have to do this. And the history of that, to be able to preserve that, to be part of helping to do that, man, what an honor. And I was looking through the list. That fellow right there, my son, went to his first folk arts concert in utero and heard one of the other National Heritage winners, a friend of mine named Anjani Ambagokar, who's the leading authority on Kathak dance in the United States. That's a northern Indian style of dance. She's just, her daughter wound up being with Cirque du Soleil before coming back to take over teaching that tradition in this country. Wow. These people are just amazing. And he danced the entire time. Yeah. Wow. That's my wife, Ann.
Yeah. Ann, can welcome Ann. You want to introduce yourself?
And that's my son, Andrew.
Andrew.
Mike.
Welcome, Andrew.
A few friends and neighbors here. His brother's out in Colorado. So.
I was going to say, is there anyone else in the audience whom you would like to recognize for their encouragement and mentoring during your career?
Well, there are oh my gosh, the number they're not here, but there are so many that have been so generous with me personally and professionally, and you've seen the video of California Generations, which is so far. I think one of the things I'm most proud of was an amazing project with a group of presenters. These are folks who manage theaters. They don't produce the work. They bring in touring artists, and California naturally has the largest association. And we sort of got our heads together and decided that we wanted to do a tour of some of California's immigrant and native folk traditions. And we contracted with the National Council For the traditional arts, it was a $250,000 commission back in 1991 or 92, and is so far the biggest commission NCTA has ever had.
Yeah.
And
it was very impressive.
My job was to put the money together. We got $100,000 from the NEA, thank you. And my job was to find the other $150,000, which I found within the budget of different budgets of the agency, which didn't necessarily make me popular with everyone there. But I got there in the morning with the executive director, and none of my colleagues showed up until 9 o'clock. I was always there at 8, so I always got a chance to talk to the director before anybody else showed up.
Yeah.
So he got behind it.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing, you've seen the video.
Oh, it was wonderful.
I mean, it's just, you just can't believe. There's so many places in California where you can say, you know, the largest population of blank outside of blank is in California. So the largest population of Hmong outside of Cambodia is in, I think it's Fresno. And, you know, some Hawaiians, same in Los Angeles. You know, just one, and we even had a cowboy poet.
Yeah, I loved that. I did.
Cowboy poet and 2 Native American artists. That was fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the cowboy
poet.
He
was really, we had to have a cowboy poet.
Yeah, that was awesome. Well, I'm going to surprise you. I have a few letters of some of your colleagues that I'm going to read what they would like to tell you if they were here in person today. The first one is from Mary Ann Carter. She's the acting chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts. She says, I'm sure I don't need to tell you that Phil is practically a legend among state art agency executives, and the national arts community recognizes his leadership for the past 25 years. He strengthened the work of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts through its work with regional partners. He was a leader in moving the National Endowment into improving its use of technology. He made art education a priority. He used his expertise to serve as a valued national panelist, and he always supplied friends and colleagues with dark chocolate from the great state of Pennsylvania, always within the legal limit, though. We miss Phil in his capacity as executive director, but we know Phil's passion for the arts will last forever. Phil, on behalf of the National Endowment for the Arts, I thank you for your service, your passion, your energy, and perhaps most of all, your sense of humor. Best wishes in all your future endeavors. With great respect, Mary Ann Carter.
That's very nice. Not every chairman of the endowment would say that about me, would they, Mike?
My next letter is from Julia Olin, Executive Director of the National Council for the Traditional Arts. She says, speaking as someone whose work has been centered on presenting and supporting the folk and traditional artists of our nation, it would be hard to overstate Philip's contributions to our field. Philip and I have known each other for over a quarter century, since the early 1990s when he was at the California Arts Council and we collaborated on a groundbreaking touring project called the California Generations. That was just what we were talking about earlier. He can certainly tell you about this if he wishes, and we did hear a little bit of that. His steadfast support of and advocacy for folk arts has taken so many forms. Some quite public, others very much behind the scenes, and had a profound national impact. His wise counsel, political savvy, mentorship, and encouragement have meant the world to me personally. I am sure many, many others would say the same. He is my dear friend who deserves our collective gratitude, thanks, and more accolades than can ever possibly be showered upon him. Julia Olin, Executive Director. And then I have one more.
She is just she's a walking encyclopedia of American folk art. I wish she was here. She's up at the folk festival in Lowell. I think.
Yes, she said she was getting ready for that.
She's just amazing and a good musician.
The last one is from Laura Smith. She's the Chief Advancement Officer of the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies. I asked her to tell me a little bit what she does, because she's kind of the hub of the big wagon wheel, isn't she?
Yeah.
In some
that's our national association.
Okay.
And she's the development program person there.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what she does too. And I asked her, just tell me a little bit. So she says, to recap, I serve as Chief Advancement Officer for the National Assembly of State Art Agencies. It's called NASA, NASAA, is the professional association for the country's 56 state and territorial arts agencies, including the Pennsylvania Arts Council. In partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts, state art agencies are the backbone of the arts in the United States, supporting all artistic disciplines, including the folk and traditional arts, in every corner of the country. At NASA, we provide the knowledge, representation, and networking services that states need to do their best work. One of our most important roles is to advocate for the NEA's budget in Congress, because 40% of the NEA's grants budget goes out to the states, which legislatures then match, typically many times over. She says, Philip Horn has been an integral part of this public arts funding ecosystem for most of his long and illustrious career. I have had the pleasure of working with him in many different capacities over the years, and he's made trouble as he has served NASA and state art agencies in many different ways. I think she was kind of adding her sense of humor.
A little bit.
I think he started out with the California Arts Council and then served as the longtime executive director in Pennsylvania. He also served for many years on NASA's board, representing Pennsylvania at the national table and providing leadership that helped strengthen the entire state arts agency field. Though Philip had different roles and worn different hats over the years, he has always occupied the current moment and an eye toward long-term sustainability. So co-chair of NASA's CEO search committee, he helped select a new CEO who brought the organization fully into the 21st century. He is also his strong and lifelong champion of the folk arts and of arts education, which are both about making the arts and culture real and relevant for future generations. Philip was a national voice for authentic community engagement, for audience-driven participation, and for diversity and inclusion, long before these issues were at the forefront of art funders' conversations. Philip, as a pioneer and unique administrator, both a disruptor and a stabilizer, with a wicked sense of humor and a cackle like no other. Beneath a sometimes curmudgeonly demeanor lies a deeply tolerant, hilarious, caring, and committed spirit who believes wholeheartedly in the power of arts to make our lives better. I'm grateful to have had the chance to work with him and grateful now to call him friend. Thanks again for the opportunity to contribute to the tribute for Philip. I hope all goes well with the Susquehanna Folk Festival. Warm regards, Laura.
I'll get even.
And let's see, get this on. The Susquehanna Folk Music Society, being the host of this weekend festival, would like to thank you, Philip, because you have been a principal supporter of our efforts. And with that, we have an award to give you. From Susquehanna Folk Society, honors Philip Horn for his contribution to the folk arts, both statewide and nationally.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's great. Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been
Thank you.
crazy. And, these artists are just amazing.
Yeah. Well, your opinion matters to us. And why do you think organizations like ours are important for this community?
Wow. You probably have, having an organization like the Susquehanna Folk Music Society in a community of this size is almost unheard of in the United States. I mean, there aren't that many folk music societies. There are, sort of folk music, get together, pick your guitar, write your song, there's tons of those. But an organization like this that always strives to get the best and the most authentic work to people, things that they probably have never even heard of. My neighbors are back there. We went to a great concert. I think it was Ledward Kapana, great Hawaiian musician. Mm-hmm. Who knew? Right. And another one, Ray Kane, a Hawaiian cowboy singer. Did you know Hawaiians had cowboys? No. They had to have cowboys. It's just amazing that what gets done here is really mostly done by the community for the community. This is not some entertainment conglomerate doing this, and you can't make money doing this. Yeah. And the volunteers and all of this that go into this, and you can see, what's going on here, and just the opportunity to be part of a live performance is just so completely different from listening to it by any other means. Sure. And to be with your neighbors, with the community, I think that's a very important part of the glue of this society. And it's not for everybody, but I don't know what is. It is great that probably 30 or so years ago, this organization would not have been recognized as even being eligible for funding. Yeah. And that has changed. It continues to change. It needs to change some more. It is, really, I tell people this all the time. They don't believe me. But I'd say, the Council on the Arts really doesn't accomplish anything. We don't do any of this. The only way we get anything done is by giving money to you, because you're the ones who are doing it. So we're here to support you, to make it easier, to make it better, to do whatever we can. The support is not, what we'd like it to be. It's not what it used to be. It could be, and it should be better. But we've done everything we can, to reach as many communities as possible, and to make that money as meaningful and as valuable as we can. And it really is about, people look at something like this, they see people walking through, they're paying tickets, they're eating food. It looks like a for-profit. But ask the board of directors. I think any board of directors of any performing arts organization is always glaring at the treasurer and saying, why don't we do things that make money? Well, yeah. Somebody else does that. Right. And so it's an amazing thing. I just got back from a visit to Macedonia, where the system, of course, is completely top-down, national level, and it's a mess. And here, it's so much grassroots, bottom-up. Where's my hat? Got a couple of colleagues sitting right there who are, got their teeth in the bit of trying to save New Cumberland's old West Shore Theater. Oh, and I'm hoping that
watching out for that.
There'll be some of these. Yeah. Some of these. I hope to have the Quaby sisters open it up again.
Wouldn't that would be?
But it's if it were easy, a lot more people would be doing it, and a lot more of those beloved venues would still be around. But they're almost all gone. So it's really about how do we support our friends and neighbors, people in the community who want to make things better. I wish Jess was here. Jess Hayden's the director. Yeah. She's amazing. She is. And she lives in New Cumberland, of course. And what an incredible job she's done. And taking this on, and I guess she negotiated with the weather gods,
Yeah.
but because this is
absolutely
I was
wonderful.
so worried.
Yeah.
And, bad weather, and this all could have,
Yeah.
been a one
Well, I'm
giant
sure there's still a few people
vault of
cleaning out
red
their
ink.
basements
Oh,
from
God,
earlier
yes. Oh,
this
yes.
week.
Well, they should come here and listen to some
Yeah.
music and go back to their
Yes,
basement.
there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Lori. My pleasure.
And thank you, everyone, for attending our interview this afternoon. Sincerely, thank you. And thank you again to Philip.